Okie doke. And I think we are live. It is Tuesday at 5 p.m. So you know we're here as we are every week. Sorry, we got started a little bit late this time. I was having technical issues with my computer, but we are good. We're rocking and rolling now. It's all good. Hope you guys are doing well. We have Lindsay back with us this week, which I'm really excited about. I know that we missed her, and we're going to be diving into some good stuff this week, as always. So I'm going to give everyone just a moment to pop on. I'll give everyone just a minute, and then I have a very exciting announcement that I will actually probably announce at the end of the evening together too, just because I want everyone to know. So stay tuned for that. So yeah, that's all I got for now. I might need to, since we're a little bit late, we might have had some that tried to pop on like right at 5. I might text the link out to some people.
Oh, okay.
So they know that, because they might have thought we weren't going live.
Oh, okay.
I might take a minute to do that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And of course, if you're here, say hey and use the chat. We want to know if you're here. Oh, hey, everyone. Gabe, James, Danica, Sunny, and Jabria. Hi, guys. This is a good crowd. Jabria, I haven't seen you in forever. I hope you're doing good. Speaking of seeing people in forever, that is a pretty good segue into the announcement that I just really hyped up. I hope you guys are excited as we at Immerse are as far as staff goes, but our brand new building, which we have been constructing for, I think, like 8 months now, and has been in the works for about 3 years, is going to be done next week. Finally, it's very surreal. And obviously, we want the first people to see this building to be you guys, because that is the whole reason that we did that, is so that you guys could have a better space for what you needed. So yeah, it's a huge brand new center. There is so much there that we did not have before. It's not painted black anymore. It's not dingy. There's like real bathrooms and real sinks and kitchens and real desks. It's awesome. So we want everyone, as many people as we can, to come and join us on the 2nd of July. Well, that's Friday of next week, not this week, but next. And we are going to be serving food. We're going to be giving tours, obviously, answering any questions you might have about the new building, kind of giving an introduction to some of the new stuff that we're going to offer at Immerse, because we're going to be offering more now than we ever have. And there's going to be a $5 game. You guys remember those? We did those at the gathering. So we're going to have one of those. And we probably have some more surprises. We're still planning everything. So, I won't spill everything. You just have to come and find out in person. So we are going to try to provide rides there, because we know transportation can be hard from time to time. So if you want to go, let your coach know, or let me know. You can put it in the chat. And if you need a ride, I'm also going to have to know that as well. So just let someone, it doesn't have to be me, whoever you contact at Immerse, just let them know. But we, and tell your other Immerse friends that they can come too. So that is all that I have. Super exciting stuff. I'm just so pumped. So if you guys have questions about, go ahead and use the chat. Oh look, I didn't see the whole chat. Hey Regina and Michael and Brendan and Bree. What's up, guys? When is it? Okay, July 2nd. So that's not this Friday, but next Friday. And it's going to be from 12 to 2. So we're going to be serving lunch. And I think we're actually catering. I am so sorry if that's not true, but I feel like I overheard someone talking about what restaurant we're catering in. And you just don't want to miss it, okay? You just don't want to miss it. So let somebody know that you want to be there. Yes, Georgina says grand opening. That is, why didn't I think of that? That's the perfect way to say it. It's the grand opening, and we hope you're there. But it's already 5:09. Again, we got started kind of late. That was my bad, guys. Had some technical difficulties with my computer, but we're rolling now. So Lindsay, if you're good, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, great. Good to be back. Glad to see you guys. I'm going to be out next week too. So you're going to have another guest speaker next week, and then I'll be back again in 2 weeks. And so I'm excited to hear about the grand opening whenever I get back. I hope y'all are able to make it. I actually had a sneak peek tour during construction, and it's pretty fabulous. So you don't want to miss it. It's pretty good. Okay, so today we are actually, if you remember, we started off our journey talking about professional skills, the skills at work, and that included job applications, resumes, interviews. And then we talked about communication at work, conflict resolution, different types of meetings. It was like really work focused. And then we moved into a finance series. And so that included things like debt, credit versus debit, insurance, taxes, all the things you needed to know related to finance. So now our third segment is going to focus on emotional intelligence. You may have heard of it as EQ. Also emotional competencies. And these are super important just throughout your entire life. There are skills that you especially need as an adult whenever you're working in the workplace or just with others, your friends, your peers, your loved ones. It helps you in all of your relationships whenever you're able to build these skills. And so tonight we're going to start at the foundation. Actually, we're going to start where it kind of all happens, which is the emotion wheel. So this is really important because it's incredibly empowering when you're able to label what you are feeling. So as opposed to I'm feeling happy and sad, and those are good adjectives, it's great to dig deeper so you can really name in like a really like non-threatening way exactly what you're feeling in a moment or about a situation. And then you communicate that feeling to someone else. And so, you know, are you tired? Are you like really exhausted? Or are you anxious about something? And so we're going to talk about just labeling emotions tonight on the emotion wheel. And then of course, at the end, if anyone wants to maybe like join the chat and label the emotion that they're feeling on the emotion wheel, maybe we can swap some emotions. So Casey, I'm going to need some screen sharing capabilities, and then I will, there we go. And then I will pull up tonight's presentation. It's a pretty short one. Okay, so yeah, this is the emotion wheel. This is not a name that I made up. This is actually a psychologist, a scientist, lots of research behind this. This is what it looks like. And there's different versions of this out there. This one came from like selfesteemawareness.com. There's a ton of different versions of this. But what it really boils down to are there are 8 fundamental emotions, okay? And you could probably even narrow it down to fewer than this, but we'll say the 8 is really the foundation of all feeling, all emotion, okay? All right, so number 1 is fear, okay? And fear is very close to anger. Sometimes we are angry when we're scared, right? And there's different levels of fear. There's also surprise, disgust, sadness, joy, confidence, which is sometimes called trust, and anticipation. And of course, we get back to anger. So those are the 8 fundamental emotions. Okay, does anybody maybe see a pattern happening here with these 8? Are there any relationships as you look at this list? Are there any relationships that you can see on this list? What if I told you that they are paired? I told you they're pairs in this set. So there's 4 pairs in this set of 8. You think you can pick out those pairs?
That's kind of all butt in here. That's kind of what I was thinking. I was like, some of these seem, my first thought was like, there's 2 of each one, but they're also a little bit different. So I was catching on just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, what's actually happening here, and it's really good, PC, there's 2 because there's actually opposites happening here. They're polar pairs are what they're called, which means just opposites of each other. So on the wheel, they're actually on opposite sides from each other. So there's fear when you're scared, and there's anger, which is, so fear is kind of like an inward feeling, right? Like when you're scared, you might make yourself smaller. When you're angry, you might make yourself bigger. Surprise and anticipation. So surprise, you don't know what's going to happen, okay? And surprise can be a good surprise, it can be a bad surprise. The opposite of surprise is anticipation. You know something's going to happen. You're waiting for something to happen, and you're waiting and you're waiting. You're expecting something to happen. There's this emotional turmoil inside of you that tends to happen, or you're like anticipating, like it's Christmas morning and it's like there's so many Christmas presents under the tree, and you're like, yes, what did I get? Or you gave a gift to someone, like, I can't wait for them to open it. That's anticipation. Surprise would be like you weren't expecting anything. You're like, whoa, I have a present. Okay, and then there's disgust and trust. So disgust is like, I'm not gonna say it's hate, but it's it's in that family. Okay, it is just void of love, where you're just totally revolted, disgusted by something. And then trust, which I mentioned is also sometimes called confidence. So disgust, you want to get as far away from someone as you can. Trust, you bring them very close. Okay. And then there's sadness and joy. So sadness, so you can see like fear, inward, anger is outward, surprise, you don't know, anticipation, you do know, disgust is away, trust is close, sadness is down, and joy is up. So now you can see how they're polar pairs. They work against each other. Okay, what if I told you that there's 34,000 emotions coming from this wheel? It's pretty crazy, right? And they all have names. And these aren't just like made up things. Like someone has actually put research into this and has labeled, named 34,000 emotions. And we're sitting here going like, yeah, I'm sad. I'm feeling kind of down. We have 34,000 to pick from. Okay, this is what that might look like. Okay, so there's a primary, we talked about that, right? There's a primary emotions, and you got that middle ring, so you can see, you know, the joy, trust, fear, surprise, sadness, disgust, anger, anticipation, right? That's that ring. Okay, then there's like, then you can see there's a spectrum to this. You go out, it gets less intense. You go towards the middle, it gets, you know, more intense. And then even still, there's layers. So there's layers of joy, there's layers of ecstasy, there's layers of grief. You know, my grief in this hour might feel different than my grief tomorrow morning. As we're processing things, there's layers. There's a spectrum in the wheel, and there's layers in the wheel. And it all comes from these eight emotions. Okay, now we're looking at, there we go. Now we're looking at branching out a little bit. So you can see there's these intensities I talked about. So joy becomes serenity and ecstasy. So serenity gets down a notch, ecstasy, it goes up a notch, you're leveling up. And then trust goes deeper to admiration or acceptance. So we're gonna level down, level up. Fear. More intense than fear is terror, less intense is apprehension. More intense than surprise is amazement, less intense is distraction. More intense than sadness is grief, less is pensiveness. Disgust becomes loathing or boredom. Yeah, boredom. Anger can turn into rage or annoyance. And then anticipation can be vigilance, where you just determine something's going to happen, or you're interested. You're like, well, I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. I want it to happen. Interest. Okay. So you can see, like, now there's these different intensities. And there's also these combinations. So, for example, joy and trust become love. And you think about that. I mean, think about your own relationships. Someone might make you really happy to be around, like they might be really fun, but maybe you don't feel love for them or as strong as love for them as you would want or should think if you don't trust them. It's the combination of joy and love that makes trust. Or maybe you trust someone, but they don't make you necessarily happy. And so maybe your love goes down a little bit. So then we can start to think about, like, why do I feel this way about something? Or why do I feel this way about something? And you can start to look at these combinations. So you can trust someone, but also be afraid of them. So trust, you know what's going to happen. So that's trust. You're confident about what's going to happen. You don't have to be scared because you're pretty sure what's going to happen. But you could still have fear because you know it's going to happen and it's not good. And that's submission. Fear and surprise is awe. You weren't expecting something to happen. It's kind of scary. It's kind of new. It might be awe. Surprise and sadness is disapproval. Think about when you've been disappointed in someone or something that happened. You were probably a little surprised. You were probably a little surprised that it happened. And that's probably why you were disappointed and had disapproval. And you may have felt a little sad about it. Remorse happens when that sadness is with disgust. Okay, so that you think about that with shame or guilt, or maybe against someone else. Like you're sad that they did this to you and you can't believe it. It's awful. And that's remorse. Or even in yourself, I can't believe I did that. I'm so sad that I did that. That's remorse. Disgust and anger make contempt. This is when you get a chip on your shoulder. When you want someone to go away and you're angry at them, and now you've got a chip on your shoulder because you're in contempt. And then anticipation and anger is aggressiveness. So this happens when you know something should happen, is going to happen, you're feeling angry, and that's when you become aggressive. Because now you're not feeling very patient. You're like a ticking time bomb, because why is this happening? This should be happening. I'm ready for it to happen, and I'm angry, and now I'm aggressive. And then optimism happens. I'm optimistic this is going to happen when I'm feeling serene and calm about it, and I'm interested. I'm interested in something. I'm not quite sure it's going to happen. I feel happy about it. That's optimism. So you can see how these work together. And you can think about it. Think about this too. All of these in the middle, all the emotions end up touching in one single point. So there's all these different combinations that you could have in all these different layers on the color wheel. Okay, so with that, you know, maybe we can practice. Like maybe we can practice if anyone wants to like join the chat. I'd be curious, like what stood out to you? How are you feeling today? You know, how are you feeling? So I've got a big exam tomorrow. It's like a really big test. It's gonna take me 2 hours. It's 100 questions. It's 2-hour tests for my work. I get a certification. It's kind of a big deal. It's a big deal to me. And so I am, there's like some fear, but I'm also kind of excited. So like I don't know if I'm in awe, but I'm kind of probably like down in this green section because I'm not quite sure what's gonna happen. But I'm kind of excited. So I'm kind of like in between like this optimistic situation and like this awe situation. Like that's where my spectrum is. And I'm feeling a little bit of both. So I wanted to see if any of you wanted to check in and maybe try using the color wheel. And again, this is so useful in relationships too, because you can take this out and you're like, gosh, what is it? And you can use this as a tool in your conversations or in your personal development. It's really great for therapy. It's really great, talking to your friends and your loved ones, just to better express yourself. You can pick any of those 34,000 different emotions. So you don't have to pick, I'm happy and sad.
This is really cool and extremely interesting. I put in the chat, I asked everyone where they're at, so we'll give them a minute to get back with us, but I will go. This is kind of, it's hard. It's kind of hard to know where I am. I mean, I would say right now, probably, well, okay, sorry, again, all over the place. But this is kind of timely because I was kind of thinking the other day, like, this is really deep. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. But like what it really like is, love. Like, how do you define that? It's kind of just so nebulous, but to me, that combination of joy and trust, that makes a lot of sense. So that kind of like, I feel like something is resolved a little bit. I'm like, okay, that's, if you love someone, you trust them and you feel joy towards them. So that's kind of, I think that's pretty cool. And I would say that's where I am at just personally with what's going on in my life and a few relationships that I have, are moving towards that joy and trust at the same time. So love. But yeah, so we have someone saying, I have multiple emotions. Yeah, I feel that. I mean, catch me tomorrow, I might totally change where I'm at on the wheel. So I can understand that. And yeah, we've got someone saying grief. That's hard. And I'm sorry. And if there's anything that we can do to help, let us know, because that's hard. And I know that in this series, we are going to be talking about how to deal and how to move forward and really how to overcome even when you're experiencing really hard emotions. I mean, disapproval, sadness, disgust, loathing, rage, anger, those are all difficult, terror, fear, these are difficult, experiences to have that come along with these different emotions. So there is a shred of hope. There are ways to deal and to be healthy. And so I'm looking forward to getting into that. Sorry, Lindsay, you've kind of hijacked it a little bit. I'll hand it back over to you.
No, I love it. I love the conversation. Yeah, and I thought that stood out to me too, Casey, was when you think about love, it does make sense, right? That it's this combination of joy and trust. And then in some of these others too, I was just like, that's just like so interesting. I really hadn't thought about it that way. So yeah, it is tough, but I would say as you're looking through this, maybe you can find another version that has even more adjectives. Like this seemed like enough for now, but maybe as you like think about this too, you can take out a color wheel in the morning and then maybe one in a day as you're kind of like, if you notice kind of like you're feeling kind of something's up, or if you're feeling really excited or whatever you feeling, if you're like in that moment, maybe take this out, and then it's so empowering just to put a name on it. Like, this is what I'm feeling. This, whether it's good or bad, this is what I'm feeling. This is where that's coming from. And this is what it means, next steps for me. And like I said, especially if you're in relationship, this is such a good tool for conversation. So yeah, I'm just going to turn it over to you guys. If there's, anyone else that wants to share, or if you have questions, this is your time.
I think this is a really cool tool. Totally didn't mean to rhyme there, but I'm really glad that I did. And I don't know if you guys are anything like me. I've been to counselors before. I've tried to talk to people about my emotions, and for the most part, it didn't really work very well for a long time. in my life, mainly because whenever a therapist would talk to me, I would just really tune it out and think that there was nothing they could really tell me that was beneficial. Thankfully, I've come to realize that I was very wrong about that. But that this is kind of sometimes where, for me, I would go to therapy and it would start with like, identify your emotions, name your emotions. And I'm like, what good does that do? I'm feeling it. How is this going to do anything? So I just want to say, if there's anyone who might be confused by this or doesn't see the point, I've been there. I get that. But it really can help. I didn't really see a whole lot of change personally in my life until I was able to identify what I was feeling and then come to terms with that and to also kind of accept it. But this is Live at 5. This is not discuss Casey's therapy. Don't worry, we'll get into that. But I just remember in my life, I was like, I don't care about what I'm feeling and how to name it. Like, I wanted to deal with it, but just know that dealing with it, you need to be able to identify it. So that's my 2 cents.
No, I love that. And in fact, Casey, one way to remember that, and in therapy, this is a phrase, is if you can name it, you can tame it. So there we go. We started with the rhyme. We're going to end with the rhyme. If you can name it, you can tame it. And then now you're in control. And like I said, it's super, super empowering. And also remember, if someone ever tells you that you're too emotional or that you're too sensitive, you're too emotional, don't let anyone ever tell you that your emotions are bad. You know, emotions are what we're feeling. They're part of our identity. They're, there's some negative emotions and positive emotions, but having emotions is not bad. Expressing your emotions is not bad. There are healthy ways to express your emotions. And if you want to tame something, there are healthy ways to do that. But there's nothing wrong with being emotional, and there's nothing wrong with feeling waves of emotion throughout the day. That actually makes you very human. So just wanted to end like with that, just like a little bit of a words of advice. Name it if you can tame it, and then emotional does not mean a bad thing.
Yeah, honestly, preach. I completely agree. I have been told many times in my life that I'm to this, to that, you don't have control over yourself because of things you're feeling. Well, some of that's true and most of it just really isn't. And just think about, if you've been told you're too emotional, that sucks. But the other end of that is to be emotionless. And that's not good either. So it just goes to show no one really has it totally figured out. We all got to work towards it at least a little bit.
Totally.
But
so wise tonight, Casey. You're a co-captain tonight.
Yeah, I can pop in on this stuff. I like talking about stuff like this. I think it's really cool. So hopefully I will have some other youth that are as invested as I am, but I'm here, I'm showing up. We actually do have quite a bit going on in the chat, which is awesome. We got some people, saying where they're at on the wheel, and I was kind of blown away by the fact that I'm kind of backtracking now, that there are 34,000 emotions that can be named. A lot of people like me were really shocked by that. So that's super interesting. But have we moved into the Q&A portion? I think we have. So if you guys have questions or comments, put them in the chat, and let us know so we can talk about those. And it's also a good time to talk about, as we go about this series, what things specifically do you guys want to talk about related to emotions and how you're feeling and how to, be in charge of that and overcome some of the things that you might be experiencing emotionally or in your head. Let us know specifically what you would want to talk about. And as always, these types of comments are always welcome. If there are things that you guys want to talk about during Live at 5 that is not related to emotions, I still want to know that too, because we're always open for suggestions. But if you guys could give some tips for what we should talk about specifically related to, figuring out our emotions and what we're thinking and feeling, then let us know. But that's pretty much all I've got. I thought it was interesting, the pairings of emotions and how those can bring out different emotions entirely. Could you go back to that slide real quick? I kind of want to see it again. There was one that really surprised me. Yeah. Fear and anger, when I first saw it, I was like, no, those aren't opposites. But after you explained it, it makes total sense. I just thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I was surprised by that as well. I've always heard that anger is really just a form of fear. Like we're just afraid that we're not going to get what we want or something's not going to happen the way we expect it to. And so there's like, especially if we had trauma as a child, we tend to get anger about the fears that we had as a child, like what we couldn't control as a child and our trauma. And so that manifests as anger in our adulthood. So I've heard just anger as like another form of fear as well. But it, coming from like fear, you tend to like shrink in, and then anger is like an outburst. So I can also see how they're opposite.
Yeah. I was also surprised by disgust and trust, again with the rhyming and not meaning to. But I guess that does make sense. Could you explain that one again? I think I'm a little bit still confused on that one.
Yeah, on disgust. So when you're in disgust, you're like pushing that away, and then when you trust, you bring that in close. And the more you trust something or someone, the closer you bring them. That's your security, right? You are confident in that, you trust in that. But if you don't, then you're trying to get that, as far away from you as possible. So that's that relationship.
Okay. Yep. That makes sense. We have a very good suggestion in the chat. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Talking about fight or flight. That is pretty cool. Maybe we are able to talk about that, Sierra. And even if that was something you hadn't planned on, Lindsay, that's something I could throw together. So I don't want this to be like, oh, here's what you should do. Because I don't mind doing that either. But
yeah, okay, cool.
That's a pretty cool suggestion. And there's also fight, flight, or freeze. I think as research has continued on, there are kind of 3 ways you can respond if you're in a crisis. So that's a really good suggestion. Thanks, Sierra. But it's looking like that is it. Thank you guys for being so active in the chat, and I love that all of you are here. We got quite a few people. This might have been the biggest attendance we've had in a while, so that makes me really excited. But I will go ahead and close this up. I hope you guys are staying safe, and I'm very excited to see every single one of you, right? Every single one of you on July 2nd, Friday next week, for what did Regina say, that the grand opening? Yeah, Regina's words were better than mine. For the grand opening of the new OC. And Sierra says she was referring to fear and anger as kind of fight or flight. So that maybe was not so much of a suggestion as I thought it was, but yeah, Sierra's right. That fear is kind of flight and anger is kind of fight. I can get that comparison a little bit. So
totally.
All righty. Well, I will go ahead and sign us off. You guys stay safe. And as always, we will see you guys next week here at 5.